Hi, everyone, and welcome to World Ocean Day Live. My name's Jamie from Encounter EDU, and it's fantastic to have you as part of this live lesson. Now, very, very shortly, we'll be heading over the ocean all the way to the Maldives in the Indian Ocean to hear a wonderful, wonderful presentation from Greg, who is talking about protecting the blue space out there in the Maldives in the Indian Ocean. So we're going to have a wonderful presentation from Greg, and then he will join us live for a Q&A session. So very much looking forward to that. Just before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping. Great to have all your questions, and those can be submitted into the question box to the side of the video screen. If you do want to vote on a question to push it up in terms of popularity, we answer the most popular questions first. You'll be able to see a thumb icon next to each of the questions. Just click on that to vote for a question and to push it up in terms of popularity. Now, if you do have any technical issues during the live lesson, there's a support chat, and that is accessed by clicking on the green support chat button at the bottom right of each page of the Encounter EDU website. So we've got questions for Greg, our speaker, and that's in the box, and then any support questions using the support chat. So without further ado, I am going to leave you in the capable hands of Greg from the Maldives Underwater Initiative, and we're going to hear from him in this presentation and then go live to the Maldives for Q&A. Thank you.
Hello and happy World Oceans Day, and welcome to World Oceans Day for Schools with me, Greg Holder. I hope you guys have had an incredible morning learning all about our blue spaces and how to protect them. So I work here in the incredible Maldives for the Maldives Underwater Initiative, which is run by Six Senses Laamu, a 5-star resort here based in the Maldives, who really focus on sustainability and marine conservation. So first of all, I want to tell you a little bit more about myself and my journey into marine conservation so that everyone can understand that there's not just one direct path into marine conservation. There's so many different ways that we can get into marine conservation and help protecting our blue spaces. Then I'll talk a little bit more about MUI and what MUI is, and then a few of our success stories and our projects that hopefully you can all learn from and help understand what makes great conservation. So as I said, my name is Greg, and I actually grew up and lived in London for the majority of my life, and I went to university and got a degree in sport and exercise science. So my career was not sort of heading in the marine conservation sort of way at all. But then after about 5 years of working as a personal trainer in London, I decided I wanted to change my career, wanted to get more involved in nature and conservation. So then I went traveling and I fell in love with diving, became a dive instructor in Mozambique, which is a beautiful country to dive in. But then once I was a dive instructor, even though I was absolutely loving that, I did want to do more to make a difference and actively protect our blue spaces and our environment that I was seeing and hearing and learning so much more about, and how it was being damaged and declining. And that was when I started learning more myself about marine conservation, how we can protect our oceans, what are the best things we can do to help protect the world. And then what I did is I learned about those things and then became an educator in that field and helped other people learn and understand the challenges and the pressures on the ocean and how we can change and protect the ocean better. So this is when I then got a job in South Africa at a shark conservation organization, and then again teaching more and more people about the pressures on the ocean. Then over COVID, I had to return to the UK, but I continued learning myself, but teaching other people as well about the pressures on the ocean and how we can protect the blue spaces. And then finally, I was lucky enough to land a job here as the guest education coordinator. So I'm in charge of all of our guest activities, making sure that there is an educational side of it, and our guests are coming away from their amazing holidays here having more respect for the ocean and the environment, and also understanding what they can do to help protect it as well. So one of the main things you can take away from my story on how I got into marine conservation is that you don't have to take sort of one path to get into this area and protect our blue spaces. Whatever your skills are, whatever you're passionate about, you can use that to turn that into marine conservation, whether you're an artist or you're interested in law and the government, or whether you're interested in the science side of it. All of these skills can be used to help protect our blue spaces. So don't feel like you have to get into marine biology to become a marine conservationist. There are so many different ways. As long as you're passionate and excited and driven by it, then you'll make it happen. So now I want to tell you a little bit more about MUI, the team that I work in. So as I mentioned, it stands for Maldives Underwater Initiative, and we are fully funded by Six Senses Laamu, a sustainably focused resort here in the Maldives. And our team, which you can see here, is one of the largest teams of marine biologists in the Maldives. And one of our main values within our MUI team is collaboration. And you can see this by who makes up the team. So we actually have 3 NGOs that work within our team here at Six Senses Laamu. So we have staff members from the Manta Trust. They research our manta rays here. Manta rays are incredible large animals that we are lucky enough to have around our atoll here. Did you know that the reef manta, which is actually the smaller of the 2 species of manta rays, can grow to 4.5 meters in wingspan? That is huge. That's more than 2 of me, and that's their wingspan. These are incredible large gentle giants that are just plankton feeders. They eat on some of the smallest things in the ocean. They go around filter feeding in certain areas around the Maldives, and then other areas they come for cleaning. And we're lucky enough to have a few cleaning stations here around Laamu where mantas gather together, and they will hang out over a certain spot where there's lots and lots of cleaner fish and smaller reef fish that come up and actually clean them and remove parasites and dead skin cells from the manta ray's skin, which is just an incredible experience to watch. And in fact, manta rays are one of the smartest fish in the ocean. They have the largest brain to body weight ratios of all fish. So they're very highly intelligent, and we can regularly see that when we do encounter mantas. You can see them taking us in, sort of working out what we are, and maybe even sometimes interacting with us as well. So we have staff members from the Manta Trust researching and understanding our manta populations here in Laamu. Then we have staff members from the Olive Ridley Project. Now they are our turtle biologists, and we are lucky to have a good population of turtles here. We actually get 2 different species of turtles here around Laamu. We have the green turtle, which is the largest hard-shelled species of turtle in the world. They can grow over 1 meter in shell size. These turtles can be over 100, sometimes near 200 kilos in weight. And we are lucky enough not only to have the green turtles here on our reefs, even though they eat our seagrass, so we see them regularly on our seagrass meadows, which I'll tell you more about in a little bit, but we also see them resting on our reefs regularly. But we're extremely lucky here on our island, as we also have a nesting beach. So the turtles come up and nest on our beaches, and we are sometimes lucky enough to witness the hatching of those nests and see the turtles entering the ocean for the very first time. And then we have Blue Marine Foundation, the 3rd NGO that we work with, and they focus on sustainable fisheries, fisheries management, and MPAs, which is marine protected areas, which is a big focus when we talk about protecting our blue spaces. And so the Blue Marine Foundation focus on fisheries pressure by studying the reefs, talking to fishers of the local islands, and really getting a great image of the pressures around our atoll and what we can do to reduce the fishing pressure and make sure that the fishing that does happen around our atoll is sustainable and not having a negative impact on our ecosystems. And then we also have projects by Six Senses Laamu marine biologists as well, where we study the reproduction of our coral reefs, checking how they are reproducing, if they're recovering well from the bleaching events that we've had in the past. We also monitor and research our seagrass, which again is part of our larger seagrass project, which I'll tell you about in a minute. And then we have a number of other projects, megafauna, keeping track of all the megafauna, the larger animals, the turtles, sharks, rays, Napoleon wrasse that we see around the atoll, in order to understand better where and when these large animals congregate or aggregate around the atoll. So now I want to tell you a bit more about some of our most successful projects that we've run here at MUI, in order hopefully to inspire and educate you in terms of what you might be able to do to protect your blue spaces at home. So the first project I want to tell you about is our Protect Maldives Seagrass campaign, which we ran in 2019. Now we ran this after 2 years of protecting our own seagrass. And now this is interesting because in the Maldives, unfortunately, many resorts actually remove their seagrass, as Six Senses Laamu did just before 2017. We used to remove our seagrass here, as it's kind of a standard, unfortunately, here in the Maldives to remove seagrass because it's seen as not a very nice habitat to look at, and it's thought that guests don't want seagrass around their villas or in the lagoons. They want these beautiful blue lagoons with just sand. This is very unnatural, as seagrass will grow anywhere where it is shallow and it's sort of relatively clear water. And the Maldives has a lot of this, so naturally the Maldives has lots of seagrass. But as I said, unfortunately, much of it is removed by resorts because they think the tourists don't want this seagrass around their island. However, after 2 years of protecting our seagrass, we did some research on the guests' experiences from our seagrass, and we found that the vast majority of guests actually loved seeing the seagrass. It also meant that they saw many, many more animals such as turtles and sharks right next to their villas in the seagrass, and they could just jump off their villa into the seagrass and had a chance to see any of these incredible animals mere meters away from where they were staying on their holiday. So we could straight away start to see that tourism and seagrass can mix. Now, seagrass is a massively important habitat for the climate and for the ecosystem around each particular island. As for one, seagrass is a nursery habitat for fish. So we found that about 80% of all the fish in our seagrass were juveniles. So this means that it's a really important place for young fish to grow up safe before they maybe move on to our coral reefs, which is what you can see behind me here. So without the seagrass there, we would actually have less fish on our coral reefs, which is obviously again a big draw for the guests here. Also, seagrass is very important to stabilize the sediment and stop the sands moving. And as sandy Maldivian islands, they're very, very dynamic. So with lots of seagrass around the islands, they actually move less, which is very good when we start building on these islands, because we don't want them to move much with structures and buildings on them. And then also, one of the biggest reasons that seagrass is so important is that they are extremely good at sequestering and capturing carbon. They actually do this 40 times faster than tropical forests do. Now, I know a lot of climate campaigning is about planting more trees and protecting trees, which is absolutely massively important. But one big factor that's quite often ignored is protecting our blue carbon spaces. That is the seagrass, the mangroves, and the salt marshes, which actually capture a lot of carbon and actually would go a long way to help protecting our environment and our climate from the effects of climate change. So that's one of the biggest reasons that we want to protect our seagrass here, is it captures lots and lots of carbon and stores it deep in its roots, and therefore reducing the amount of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. So in 2019, we started our Protect Maldives Seagrass campaign, as we were protecting our seagrass here, but we wanted to reach further afield and reach many other resorts around the Maldives. So we then created a campaign video and lots of information and education for guests, for general managers of resorts, for the general public, and shared that information far and wide in order to hopefully get more people understanding why we should be protecting our seagrass more around the Maldives. And so now I just want to show you our campaign launch video that we sent around to all of the resorts in the Maldives. It also showed thousands and thousands of guests and people on social media, and hopefully helping them understand why seagrass was such an important factor to protect, but also why it can actually work well with tourism instead of being an issue for tourism.
It's been a year and a half since we pledged to protect our seagrass meadows. But contrary to what most people think, we've actually seen guests have these amazing experiences in the seagrass. And when they have a guide explaining what is seagrass and showing them the shoots and pointing out the turtles and rays and things that live there, I think they come away from it, and every single time they're blown away.
I'm snorkeling every day and I'm seeing things that I would see once the whole 2 weeks, and I'm seeing them every day.
Very nice to protect the seagrass and all its animals.
There's enough evidence out there to prove the fact that seagrass is a crucial ecosystem, much like our coral reefs and mangroves. If we want to protect our islands, we need to protect the Maldives seagrass.
Protecting seagrasses will not only support tourism, but it will also benefit the wider Maldivian community that relies on these important ecosystems.
मुस्तकबिल हिमायत को तिमाट लोबे को कांडू के दिरुं तक दमाट बेन वाकम जाऊं फुरतन पुरंजे मत सीगुरा हिमायत को
Let's all work together to protect the Maldives seagrass.
Okay, so you saw that video, you can see how incredibly beautiful and powerful seagrass is, and this was a hugely successful campaign for us here in 2019, and we saw by the end of that year, we saw over 25% of all resorts in the Maldives actually pledged to protect their seagrass, which meant over 1 million square meters of seagrass was protected around the Maldives because of our Protect Maldives Seagrass campaign, which was a huge win for us as a resort and us in the Maldives. So the next project I want to tell you a little bit more about is a bit more focused on direct education, and this is our junior marine biology program, and I'm sure this is of much more interest to all of you sitting in your classrooms today, as this is our program to get children more involved and understanding our work here in the Maldives. So our junior marine biology program is a program where kids who are on the island between the ages of 7 up to 14 can join us for 2 hours a day, learn about our projects, learn about our research, understand the ecosystems and the animals we have around here, around Laamu. And then what they do is they can actually get involved with us and actually join our team and help collect data or see how we collect data. They can get in the water, see the reefs, see the animals firsthand, and can actually learn how we collect data on these animals and just get hands-on and involved with our work here, which is an incredible opportunity for all of the children that visit here on the island, and it's been hugely successful. We have many children falling in love with the marine world once they actually see the underwater world, which is obviously a very special thing to be able to do. But when COVID struck and we had no people here on resort, we wanted to make sure that we could reach more people and that more children had the opportunity to learn about the Maldives and their ecosystems and how we can protect our blue spaces. And this is when we created Junior Marine Biology Online, which is open and accessible for all of you back at home, which is why it's so amazingly brilliant. It's a 10-week program with many videos and activities and homeworks for you to do, where you can learn from us and from the MUI team. You can learn about our research, and you can learn how you can get involved and you can do your own little bit of marine conservation or marine research in your home. So please do go to the link that's on this page, or you can just search Junior Marine Biology Online on Google. You can find our course on there, and it's free, so please do just enroll, get involved, and you can learn so much more from our team and all our different specialities that we have in the team here. So what I want to show you now is our launch video or our promotional video for our Junior Marine Biology course, so you can see the kind of things that kids can get up to when they are lucky enough to visit us here at Six Senses Laamu.
Every kid should realise that they can be a scientist too. You don't need to wear a lab coat, you don't need to have gone to university to study marine biology to be a scientist. The Junior Marine Biology program with the Maldives Underwater Initiative is unique. Not all of our 6 modules in this program occur in the classroom. Most of our learning actually happens right behind me here. This is actually our house reef, which is 1.5 kilometres of beautiful tropical reefs. Here to have seagrass habitats, coral reefs, mangrove forests, all of these places that we can take the junior marine biologists, places that they wouldn't get to see back home, where we can take them to do really practical, hands-on, one-on-one kind of projects that are really going to inspire them. I think the entrepreneurs that are going to solve problems in our oceans are getting younger and younger. You know, you see a 20-year-old who says he's going to clean up 50% of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch over the next 5 years. We need more kids like that. We need more young entrepreneurs coming up with ideas that us old dinosaurs can never even think of.
And the last project I want to tell you a bit more about is actually more of a general success story from all of our work over the years. So since the first marine biologist was here in 11 years ago when the resort first opened, we've been collecting data on all of the ecosystems, the megafauna, the turtles, the sharks, the manta rays, the seagrass. All of this information has been being collected and being analysed and being understood over the years by the marine biologists and by MUI. And so over the years, we have been able to build up a brilliant understanding of the ecological importance and the amazing biodiversity that we have here around Laamu. And all of this work came together to make a great achievement last year in November and in December. As in November, we were designated as a Mission Blue Hope Spot. Now, Mission Blue is an organization, an international conservation organization run by Dr. Sylvia Earle, kind of the queen of marine biology. If you don't already know her, look her up. She is one of the pioneers of marine conservation, marine biology, and she has done so much work in the field over the last 50 years or more. So her organization goes around the world and tries to identify places of significant ecological and scientific interest for marine conservation. And we were lucky enough, through all of the research that we collected over years, we were able to prove to Mission Blue that our atoll, Laamu Atoll, was significant enough to be designated as a Mission Blue Hope Spot, which then gives us lots more exposure, lots more opportunities to research and sort of better protection around the atoll. And then to add on to this, 1 month later, we got another early Christmas present in late December, as then we heard from the government that they had actually announced that there were going to be 6 new marine protected areas designated here in Laamu, which was a massive win for us, as before then there were no marine protected areas. There was no legal protection for any specific area around here in Laamu. So when the government announced that, that was a massive win for us. And these marine protected areas, even though the management plan hasn't been created yet, so we are working with the government in order to hopefully get those management plans as good as possible so that these areas can be fully protected. But these marine protected areas can pave the way for better protection and better ecology and biodiversity all around our atoll. So what I want to show you now is our launch video when we announced that our atoll, Laamu Atoll, was designated as a Mission Blue Hope Spot. Now, what I want you guys to take from this video and from all the stories I've told you already is that some of the most important things of marine conservation is learning about the area you want to protect. And that's obviously, like I said, what we've been doing for the last 11 years. We've been trying to learn as much as we can. And then it's about educating other people and helping share that information, sharing the science, sharing what you've learned. And then finally, as I said right at the start, one of our biggest values here at MUI, which has helped us create so many amazing projects and achieve so much with relatively few people and years, is through collaboration. Collaboration must be the driving force for conservation. Work together with other people who maybe know more about certain areas or have more experience in certain areas. Come together, work together, and you can achieve so much more as a group, as a collaboration, than you can do on your own. So let's just watch the video of our announcement for the Hope Spot of Laamu Atoll, and then we can get straight on to the live Q&A.
Congratulations, you, the champions of Six Senses Laamu in the Maldives. Since 2011, when you began to gather information, and now to be able to celebrate the official designation of this amazing atoll as a hope spot. Truly reason for hope. The seagrass meadows that we now understand are so important to generating oxygen, capturing carbon, providing home and security for so many creatures, but also the corals themselves. And not just within the lagoon, but outside and into the depths beyond.
We're so incredibly lucky to be based in this incredible part in the Maldives. And it is our responsibility to make certain that the extraordinary marine environment in the Laamu Atoll is protected and safeguarded for generations to come. Our partners are the Manta Trust, Blue Marine Foundation, and the Olive Ridley Project. And with these 3 partners, we have put together the Maldives Underwater Initiative, also known as MUI, and we couldn't have achieved what we're achieving now without them.
Since 2011, we've been collecting data on Laamu's marine ecosystems, and our findings prove just how special Laamu is. Unlike other atolls in the Maldives, Laamu has very few reef passes, leading from the outside to the inside of the atoll. These are home to the likes of Napoleon wrasse, grey reef sharks, mantas, and other rays. Laamu is home to spawning, courtship, and nesting sites for species such as groupers, mantas, and green turtles.
Laamu Atoll is an exceptional place in an exceptional country. Its coral reefs bounced back remarkably well after two devastating bleaching events in 1998 and 2016. The seagrass beds, mangroves, and coral reefs support an incredible diversity and abundance of megafauna. But more than that, the relationship between Six Senses Laamu and the local community shows how the aspirations of local people can be met alongside effective protection and management of the environment, and is a model for the rest of the country to follow.
Today is a very proud day for Laamu Atoll with the celebration of Laamu Become Hope Spot. For the last decade, we have been working with Six Senses Laamu to ensure that our beautiful home of Laamu Atoll remains unthreatened by development and our natural resources are protected. This hope spot provides us with the hope that our Laamu marine ecosystem, livelihood, and the tradition which may rely on them will be safeguarded for generations to come.
Six Senses sustainability is not about sacrifice. Rather, it's a celebration of abundance. The unique environments, cultures, and experiences we share with our guests are not meant to be experienced just once. Sustainability ensures that future generations can enjoy them with Six Senses for years to come. The Laamu Atoll Hope Spot is a realization of this vision, and I believe I speak on behalf of everyone at Six Senses in saying that we are so proud to be a part of it.
One hope spot at a time, we're creating a true network of hope. Really thank you and applaud you for what you are doing there in the Maldives to make a difference for your beautiful blue part of the planet and for the planet as a whole.
What an amazing presentation. I'm completely inspired, and we're just going to see if we can connect to Greg live from the Maldives. Greg, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Greg, thank you so much for that. And I love the focus on seagrass as well, and underreported and sort of overlooked sometimes ocean habitat. We've got a stack of questions for you. Can I just fire some at you, or are there any points you wanted to make briefly before we got into the Q&A?
No, I think let's just jump straight into the Q&A. It'll be great to hear what everyone wants to know.
Well, of course, our first question is on sharks, that ever popular marine beastie. What types of sharks do you find in the Maldives?
Well, excellent. Not surprising that sharks is the first question, and maybe they were in my talk last year where I was talking only about sharks. So here in the Maldives, we're very lucky. We do get a wide variety of sharks. By far, the most common sharks that we see here are the reef sharks, unsurprisingly, as we have so much reef. So we do, on our house reef even, we regularly see white-tip reef sharks and black-tip reef sharks, which is literally just 50 meters away from me right now. And then we also get a number of slightly larger sharks like grey reef sharks and silver tips on many of our dive sites. And we are very lucky, at least in this atoll, we're very lucky to just occasionally see things like hammerhead sharks, whale sharks, even bull sharks and threshers very rarely. But there's some other atolls around the Maldives which do get specific sharks much more regularly. Just down south, we've got Formula, which gets a lot of the big predatory sharks, such as tiger sharks and threshers. And then further up north, we've got South Ari Atoll, which has a huge population of whale sharks. And they are seen, about 95% of all the sightings of whale sharks in the Maldives is seen just on South Ari Atoll. So there's very specific atolls for certain species. We're very lucky here in Laamu we get a nice wide variety of many different species, and we see them regularly on almost every snorkel or dive. We're lucky enough to see at least a few sharks.
Brilliant. Greg, thank you so much. The next question is you've done this, amazing presentation about what people locally in the Maldives are doing. The question is, what can people from home, and I'm imagining this is sort of in the UK rather than the Maldives, do to protect the Maldives? Or is there another way of looking at this?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a big question. Obviously, I think one of the biggest threats to the Maldives, when we look at sort of what is threatening life here, like the Maldivians and also the natural life here, is coral bleaching. So the Maldives has a huge amount of beautiful corals, but unfortunately they are experiencing many bleaching events more and more recently. Particularly in 2016 was our last mass bleaching event, but unfortunately even this year we did see some bleaching, luckily not on a mass scale. So in terms of mass coral bleaching, one of the biggest things individuals can do all around the world, not necessarily just from the UK, but it is that sort of common story about climate change, trying to reduce our carbon emissions, our impact, whether that's by sort of trying to walk or take the bus to school instead of taking the car, whether that's just reducing our overall carbon emissions in terms of the things we buy, the clothes we buy, the foods we eat, becoming more aware of all of these things we do and what their impacts are, and trying to reduce our carbon emissions will, on a global scale, when everyone starts doing this will start to impact all around the world, and we'll start hopefully protecting our amazing blue space here in the Maldives. And then another thing is the fishing around the Maldives, or at least fish populations. And again, this is similar for all around the world, that global fish populations are declining rapidly. Around the Maldives, for example, tuna populations are declining rapidly, even though the Maldivian tuna fisheries is one of the most sustainable commercial fisheries in the world. Unfortunately, the numbers of tunas are still declining around the Maldives and around the world. So one of the big things that everyone can do wherever they live in the world is to be very conscious of the seafood that we eat, make sure that we are sourcing our seafood from sustainable sources, making sure we know where our seafood has come from and how it's caught, and also overall reducing our demand for seafood, as the global demand for seafood has risen so high that the oceans just can't keep up.
Greg, thank you. Looking at a couple of those great things that we can all do at home. The next question is on a more personal note for you. What is the favorite thing, your favorite thing about your job?
Where to start? I understand how lucky I am to have a job in such a beautiful place. And even though the oceans, and obviously being in the water and being able to snorkel and dive almost on a daily basis is definitely an amazing thing that I get to do for this job, and see the incredible, beautiful life we have under the water. But I have to say, one of my favorite things that popped into my head about this job is my team. We're extremely lucky here to have an amazing, skilled team here that work tirelessly to try and protect our blue space through research, through education, through community work, whatever they're doing. I feel very lucky that each individual in our team will do everything they can to try and protect this blue space, and we hope that we're doing enough to protect it.
We've got a quick question here from Marwan, and the question is what is the total population of species in the atoll? But what maybe not put up, but what kind of diversity of marine life do you have where you are?
Yeah. Thank you for saving that question for me. Yeah, because I'll be honest, I don't know the number of species that we get here in the atoll. Certain things like, for example, our coral species here, we don't actually know how many species. No one knows how many species of coral we have here in Laamu Atoll. The research just hasn't been done yet, and we haven't had the resources and the expertise to be able to know that. But what we do know is we're extremely lucky here in Laamu to have a brilliantly diverse ecosystem. We have also, not only do we have the biodiversity, but we have some really vital ecosystems and environments here. For example, we know that a dive site just around the corner from our resort is not only is it a manta aggregation site for cleaning as a cleaning station, it's also a Napoleon wrasse spawning site. Napoleon wrasse are huge fish that can grow to around 2 meters long. So we know that they spawn there. We know that groupers also spawn on that site, as well as a few other sites around the atoll. So not only do we have that diversity, which is obviously so important, but we know that we are lucky enough to possess some ecosystems that are, providing a habitat for that most important stage of many of these important animals' lives, which is one of the reasons that we're so lucky here, and one of the reasons that we did get designated as a Mission Blue Hope Spot.
Amazing. Greg, thank you very much. The next question is when you visit the Maldives, do you get a chance to have a workshop about the ocean on animals? Is that something that's a tourism thing or a government thing, or how does that work?
I guess it would depend on, where you go in the Maldives. As everyone saw in the video, if you're lucky enough to come here and visit Six Senses Laamu, then absolutely you can join. If you're a child, then you can join junior marine biology. You can get involved with our team, come along, jump in the water with us and learn about the ecosystem that way. Or you can join our evening talks or our reef cleans, or all these different activities we run at Six Senses Laamu. It's not necessarily the same for other resorts around the Maldives. Some resorts do, obviously many resorts still run snorkels and dives and everything like that. As far as I'm aware, not many resorts put on as much in terms of that education, that marine conservation education that we do. So yes, it would completely depend what resort you're visiting as to what opportunities you have to learn about the marine environment here and protecting it.
Greg, thank you very much. Greg, there's a question here from East Point Academy, and it's really sort of saying you've got all these sort of, you've spoken about these different marine protection strategies in the Maldives. Are they applicable to somewhere like the North Sea, or do people sort of in sort of looking at the UK and the North Sea have to think slightly differently about the strategies used to protect the ocean here?
Oh, that's a great question. I'd have to say I think that they definitely can relate to the North Sea. The difference, yes, is the temperature and the exact thing maybe we're trying to protect, but the principles are still the same. One of the leading reasons that we've had such successful projects is for one is collaboration. So like I mentioned, one of our biggest values here at MUI is to collaborate. We know that within our team, we don't always have all of the expertise we need, but what we're willing to do is we are willing to reach out and talk to the experts that know the best and understand what we can do here in our space to protect it. And I think exactly the same can go for protecting the North Sea. What we need to do is we need to understand these environments through research and through sort of long-term studies and things like that. And then what we need to do is spread the knowledge, help other people understand, increase awareness of why these ecosystems are so important. And it's a bit of the three stories I sort of told in the video. They're all different stages of that. We've got the research that allowed us to protect our area through the government marine protected areas. Then we have our awareness programs like junior marine biology and like the seagrass, Protect Maldives Seagrass campaign. It's a combination of all those and working together with inspired individuals, but with the governments, with the communities, with the general population. All of that together will create hugely successful programs. And I think that can be replicated anywhere around the world.
Greg, thank you so much. I think we've got time for just one last question. I'm going to take it from Finn, who is a self-confessed home-educated shark nerd.
I remember Finn from last year.
This brilliant. It's a great name for someone who's into sharks.
Yeah.
Are there any opportunities to volunteer in the Maldives? I think Finn might be angling for a bit of a job out there.
Yes, I don't blame you. Yeah, well, welcome back, Finn. I remember, Finn joined our talk last year and had some brilliant questions as well. Again, that does vary. So, coming specifically down to MUI, we do have internships running pretty much throughout the year, but we do focus on Maldivian interns in order to, we want to bring that education into the Maldivian community and help, lift up and elevate local Maldivians in order to protect their own environment, as we understand that community buy-in and community education and information is hugely important. So we don't personally that often take volunteers on a long-term basis, but there are lots and lots of opportunities to volunteer around the Maldives. And also, when come on master's courses or even undergraduate courses, quite often, or some courses do have the opportunity to come and volunteer while they are collecting their data. We were lucky enough to have a number of master's students join us last month in order to collect their data, but also learn more about the projects we're doing. Obviously, the Maldives is a very, it's on the top of the list for a lot of people, so it's very competitive, and there's lots and lots of people who would be who'd love to come out and volunteer. So it is tough, but there are the opportunities there, and I think if people work hard and they make sure they're learning as much as they can, and they're showing their passion and their ethics and their morals and how hard they want to learn and get involved, then I believe that these opportunities do arise for the right people if they're willing to show the hard work and to really learn what they need to learn.
Greg, thank you so much for your presentation and for taking the time out to answer these questions live. It looks like an incredibly tough gig where you are at the moment, but I know that you and the team work tirelessly both to protect the ocean directly and to engage a whole range of different groups in joining forces to conserve the ocean for the future. So thank you to you and to the whole team at MOE. Just before we say goodbye, up next in about 15 minutes, we have an amazing tale from somewhere very different from the Arctic. It is in German. So for all those German language classes watching, we have Meer Eis in der Arktis und Antarktis with Dr. Marcel Nicolaus in about 15 minutes. And then after that, we are going all the way to Malaysia to learn how to be an ocean activist and get to grips with plastic. So do join us for those. But for now, Greg, thank you again for your time and for your input into this session and all the great work you and the team are doing in the Maldives. Until the next time, it's goodbye.
Thank you very much, guys. Had a brilliant time. Thank you, guys.